My name is Marie, and this presentation on child abuse is for Liberty University's Social Work 270, Ethics in Professional Helping. Child abuse is a common problem. It is a social as well as a personal problem. Abuse can take many forms. The ones that come to mind at first are physical and sexual abuse. However, emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse can have just as detrimental effects on a person. In fact, in some ways, emotional abuse may have a greater effect because the child or young adult may not even realize what is happening to them is abuse and that they really need to get help. Many people think they know the signs of child abuse, but did you know that there are many signs of abuse beyond the ones you typically think of that are less well known? And sometimes the abuser is so good at hiding the abuse that you may not observe what people consider are the typical signs of abuse right away. Often, sometimes even the child or young adult does not realize that what is happening is abuse. The social problem is that much child abuse is hidden and unreported. Many times, no one comes to the aid of children or young adults who are abused. There are three cases in the media I will mention that show the variety of kinds of abuse or cover up. In each of these examples, the children or young adults were kept naive about what was appropriate and lacked the social knowledge or were misinformed on how and what happens when abuse is reported, so they were scared to report. The abuse stayed hidden a long time until the truth was revealed. In this presentation, we will look at why the cries from the most vulnerable that cannot speak up for themselves go unheard and what we can do to help make their voices heard. Several cases of child abuse have come into light in the media in the past year. These are all cases where the abuse continued for years, and yet no one was prosecuted until years later. No one realized what was going on. Another sad factor of these particular cases is that religion was used as a cover-up for the abuse. The abusers twisted the Bible and its teachings to allow the abuse or the cover-up of abuse and to protect the abuser and to shame the victims. Three of these cases mentioned in the media in these past year are the Willis family, the Turpin family, and the Duggar family. These are just some of the more well-known cases due to the popularity of the families or the severity of the abuse. However, stories like these are happening all around the world without media attention. In case you are unfamiliar with these stories, here is a summary. The Willis family was known for their success on America's Got Talent TV show in 2014 and 2015. In 2016, their oldest daughter, Jessica, through working through what was trying to figure out what was happening to her family and that it was true abuse and coming to terms with her father's sexual, physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse, left the family. Eventually, the father was convicted and imprisoned for 40 years. Jessica Willis Fisher's own website and Bluegrass Today share details of their story. What is neat with this story is now the family is coming back and talking about how Christ can redeem even in the most difficult of circumstances. In this story, even though at least 4 of the daughters were being abused, none of the sisters realized each other was being hurt until years later. The Turpin family's abuse of their 13 children in California came to light in 2017 and 2018. The New York Post shares about how these parents physically abused and neglected their children. The truth was revealed when their 17-year-old daughter escaped the house and called the cops. The parents are now in prison, and the 7 adult children are being reintegrated into social life, while the 6 minor children are in foster care with contact with their older siblings. This is one case where the kids were so naive and didn't even realize that what was happening was bad and didn't have a way to get out and to escape. The Duggar family is known for their TV shows on TLC and their 19 kids and many grandkids. This case is somewhat different in that the older son was, when he was a teen, abused several girls, including some of his sisters. However, when the parents found out about the matter, it was hidden for years in order to keep their wholesome family reputation. Some of the girls who were abused have recently spoken up about what happened and about growing up with the so-called elephant in the room. The Christian Broadcasting Network, among other websites, has much to say about this story as well. So why aren't their voices heard? Why is so much child abuse unreported? Here are some of the reasons. Their victims are afraid they won't be believed. Bystanders are afraid it may cause more trouble if they speak up, or that they may misjudge the situation because they aren't aware of what really happens when abuse is reported. Often the victims are naive enough or don't have enough vocabulary to even describe the abuse, or they're so traumatized they repress it. The victims may be manipulated by the abusers into believing they deserve the abuse, or afraid that they won't be believed when they do speak out, or they do speak out and their voices are not heard. But in reality, it boils down to worry, fear, doubt, and guilt. The problem of child abuse within a family is so widespread. If you see the signs of potential abuse and family dysfunction, should you speak up or not? If so, how do you do so? How, do you reach out to the child? Do you talk to the abusers? Do you reach out to DHS or the police? What if that child is no longer legally a minor, but due to the emotional suppressing, legalistic thinking, or some other condition, they consider themselves like a child or emotionally are like a child? What do you do if the parent is so controlling that you are afraid that if you report it, it will become worse for the person? Do you report emotional abuse or a severely dysfunctional family without any hard evidence of abuse? These are all questions that have to be considered when you suspect a person is being abused in any home. However, for the purpose of this course, the one dilemma we will discuss is, do you report abuse if you suspect abuse and have observed severe family dysfunction, but you cannot prove anything, and the teen or young adult has not said anything directly about the abuse to you? Or do you wait in case you are wrong, or in case reporting it without hard evidence makes it worse for the teen or young adult? Who is affected by this dilemma? Well, first most, the teen or young adult who is being abused. Then the parents or the abusers, siblings, anyone in the family, the person who is considering reporting, the authorities if a report is made. Other friends and family members may also be affected. And the life of each member of the family will be changed either way, whether you report it or not. The abuse could continue, or it may be stopped. The person considering reporting could save the life of the teen, or they could be cut out of their lives by the parents. Possibilities are, of the 6 social work values, the ones that come into play in this dilemma are the first 5 values. Service, because it is the goal of the social worker to help people in need. Social justice, it is important to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Integrity, it's important to behave honestly and to demonstrate confidentiality. Dignity of a person, it's important to respect the rights of a person of their self-determination and the rights of the individual to make their own choices. Human relationships, there of course is the value of family and protecting the autonomy of the family that also must be considered. And competence, that means to practice within the area of their expertise. As a mandatory reporter, all social workers would fall under this category. But if the person considering reporting is not a mandatory reporter, and the situation becomes a little more murky. Some of the challenges that would need to be worked through in this dilemma are about should someone report or not. Some of the potential consequences of reporting and of not reporting and waiting to report are listed here. Here's some discussion questions based on the relevant journal articles. You can read through all these and comment on the discussion board. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Here are some of the sources where I gained my information on these news media articles and about child abuse in general.